Hello, Peekers. Welcome back. I'm Miranda.
And I'm Mackenzie, and this is your one-stop shop for storytelling,
tea spilling,
and to keep up with all the latest book talk drama that you have been missing out on.
Period. Do you have any life updates?
Well, yeah. So last week, remember I told you guys that I was starting in a clinic and that I was really excited about it. It's going to be a totally different flow. Turns out it was much more difficult than I anticipated. And my coworkers have told me that they also felt this way. So that makes me feel better. I don't know why I was thinking like clinic was going to be like kind of cush, like kind of chill, take patients back. Like, hey, I'm Mackenzie. I'm your nurse. I'm going to get your vitals and like see you not again until I give you your paperwork. But actually, it's been really difficult. There's also like no doctors there really. There's like one doctor there for like 80 patients a day. And then they're like, you guys got it. Good luck. You got it. And I just was really not prepared. So shout out to my preceptor, Kelsey. If you're listening, Kelsey, I have already told you about my podcast. And shout out to you for making me feel welcome and also making me not feel like I'm an idiot. Thank you.
Which would be really easy to do. I'm just kidding. No, but that is kind of a shock because when you told me you were going to be in the clinic, I was also thinking it was going to be a cush job. Like when I think of clinic, I think just vitals, asking why they're here, and then leaving them to the doctor.
So for all of you non-healthcare people, that is also what I thought it was going to be. But turns out in oncology, in the good old oncology world, it's not like that. We are pretty much doing everything, which we do have an auditor, which I didn't know what that was until this week. And she basically, if we have any questions, we message her and then she messages the doctor for us. And then she messages us back, which is nice. But there's just a lot of questions and turns out I don't actually know what I'm doing.
Everything.
So hope none of my patients are listening to this, swear I know what I'm doing, but like, I don't.
Honestly, if we're being real, that's actually the tea about nursing in general. It's like you think you know what you're doing until you don't. And then you're like, wait, what the fuck am I doing here? Why am I in charge? Why am I taking care of lives? What's going on here?
No, it's actually the worst whenever I was charged on like a nursing floor and then they were like, okay, so like you're on tonight and you're the most experienced nurse and everybody else is new grads. And it actually is like you and like little baby nurses trying to find their way. And they're like, you're the most experienced nurse and you've been here for 2 years. And you're like, okay, so I'm the adult. I'm the one that I'm the adult.
I'm in charge?
Okay.
Oh,
got it.
So be serious. Okay. Cool.
Okay.
Well, on my end, I really don't have any big updates. Long story short about that lake trip that we were talking about last episode, I think. It's not happening. Turns out everybody's poor and the boats are too expensive. So scratch that.
Actually, that's good because my parents wanted me to come see them that weekend. I was going to tell you I couldn't come. So that actually works out perfectly for me.
Yeah, that's good. Yeah, for you, that's totally cool. I'm sure you're going to come out at some point during the summer anyways, because we do need to have a photo shoot at some point. Summer content, you know what I'm saying?
Guys, follow us on plot.peak on Instagram and TikTok because you're going to see some photos. They may be reused a couple times, but you're going to see some photos. Let me tell you. We're giving book talk. We're giving slut.
Yeah. It's like the perfect combo, honestly. So relatable. And then my other update is, have you heard about the way that characters are like classified, I guess? So there's like this graph, I suppose. It's like chaotic, neutral, chaotic, good, chaotic, evil, true, neutral, true, good, true, evil, and then something else, good, neutral, evil. But essentially that's kind of how I think a lot of characters fall into their plot lines of like where their morals are and everything. And so me and Colby did a little test the other day and turns out I'm chaotic neutral.
Wait, I want to take this test.
I want you to too, because whenever we did this, I was like, Mackenzie's definitely a chaotic good. That's what I would describe you as. Because I feel like you mean well always, and you're always trying to like help people and be like good. And for the most part, but just chaotic, like still very like spontaneous. Like you're always down for something.
Wait, I want to take it. So send it to me later after this.
I will.
Episode.
If any of our listeners are listening and are curious about what they are, the website that we found was called easydamus.com. So this is what chaotic neutral is. A chaotic neutral character follows his whims. He is an individualist first and last. He values his own liberty but does not strive to protect others' freedoms. He avoids authority, resents restrictions, and challenges traditions. A chaotic neutral character does not intentionally disrupt organizations as a part of a campaign of anarchy. To do so, he would have to be motivated either by good and a desire to liberate others, or evil and a desire to make those different from himself suffer. A chaotic neutral character may be unpredictable, but his behavior is not totally random. He is not as likely to jump off a bridge as to cross it. Chaotic neutral is the best alignment you can be because it represents true freedom from both society's restrictions and do-gooder zeal. However, chaotic neutrals can be a dangerous alignment when it seeks to eliminate all authority, harmony, and order in society.
Oh, okay. I could see that.
You want to hear how it all runs down to, though? It says, so there's like 35 questions to go through, and basically it goes from like good, neutral, evil. I do have obviously mostly neutral tendencies, but the second one up is evil. So I don't know what that really says about me.
I really think that means in the Harry Potter world, my OG fantasy world, that means you are a fanfic Draco Malfoy. Oh, Malfoy. Okay. So Draco Malfoy, he's very self-serving, like a Slytherin. You're probably a Slytherin. I'm a Slytherin as well. Anyway, well, that's what the test said.
I took the test and it said I was a Hufflepuff.
You're not a Hufflepuff. You're absolutely not a Hufflepuff. There's nothing that could ever convince me you're a Hufflepuff. I think you're actually a Gryffindor. Or you're probably a Slytherin. You're a little self-serving, but not in a selfish way. You're like, I will do what I can to get to the front. Yeah, I will do what I can to get to the front. If it hurts someone else in the process, that's unfortunate. But it's not always my fault.
That's exactly how I feel about things.
And that's not bad. That's not necessarily bad.
Thank you.
It's not. I think if you're intentionally stepping on people's toes to get to where you need to go, I think that's kind of snaky. But I think that if you are doing what you need to do to get forward and someone else gets hurt in the process, God, it's making me sound like a villain.
No, see, that's the thing. I'm like, when I was taking this test, I was like, obviously I don't want that to happen. But if we're talking about me. I'm going to end up on top. Seriously. I'm curious to see what your answers are, though.
So, Miranda, I heard that there was a plot twist coming in this story episode.
There is. And you know what I would like to do for our video watchers of the Plot Peak community is give you guys something to look forward to. So if you guys see what I put on, I want you to register this for future episodes and think of it as an Easter egg. And whenever you see us doing something random, a little outlandish, just know there's going to be a plot twist.
Not you pulling a Taylor Swift and bringing out an Easter egg.
I'm trying to, you know, I mean, she's got a brand that's working, so it's only right to follow in her footsteps, you know?
I think it is. And I think that she's a famous artist, so I think that why not?
Why not? Okay, well, Mackenzie, you need to close your eyes while I get ready. Almost there. Don't look. I'm almost there. Trust me. I think you're going to really enjoy what you see. All right. I'm ready.
Are you ready?
Yes. Now, let me ask you a question, Mackenzie. Did you see this coming?
I can say with full confidence, I did not.
Howdy, partner. For those of you not watching, I did dress up as Woody from Toy Story. This is my husband's Halloween costume.
You're kind of giving.
No, wait, because Colby said the same thing. It's the glasses, I think.
Yeah, I know. Without the glasses, you look like you're in middle school trying to be like someone's crush or something. With the glasses, it's giving. It's giving cowgirl.
As always, guys, we would like to remind you that we will be storytelling everything that happens up to and through today's chapter. So if you have not read and you do not want any spoilers, you have been warned. Today, we are going to be covering Sarah J. Maas's Crown of Midnight, chapters 20 through 29. And this is actually going to be concluding part 1 of the book, which makes us about halfway through Crown of Midnight. Ooh. So before we dive into today's story, let's do a quick recap of everything that's happened so far. Dorian's little brother, Holland, has returned, so there's been a bunch of different festivities being thrown in his honor. The latest one is a carnival on the castle grounds, which has brought in an interesting character, Baba Yellowlegs. Dorian seems to have powers brewing. Archer is helping Celaena get information from a group of people trying to fight the king by finding Aelin Gallianthus. And Celaena finally told Nehemia that she is not actually following the king's order, and she shows her the secret tunnels. And in the romance department, we see that Chaol and Celaena continue to get closer. Did I miss anything?
It's Galathinius.
Thank you so much for that correction. Let's see if I can figure out how to make sure I'm saying that correctly throughout the rest of this.
For our next show notes, I'm going to write you a pronunciation guideline.
Galathinius. Galathinius. Got it. All right, so let's get into the story time. We pick up on the anniversary of the death of Celaena's family. The glass castle is the last place Celaena wants to be, so she leaves a note in her room telling whoever finds it that she's taken the day off and she'll be back by the end of it. As Celaena seeks solitude in a faraway forest, we get a peek at the day that she snapped in Endovier. The first thing we learn was that she didn't snap. It was premeditated, and it happened on this day, the death of her family. She picked up this day to unleash all of her anger, for the constant abuse to keep her weak, for the sexual and physical abuse on the other women of the camp. So when she snapped, Celaena had just watched one of the guards do their worst beatings on another woman. She grabbed her pickaxe, stalked over to the guard, and swung it into his stomach. And you would think that after a slave saw someone else trying to rise up, this would be the perfect time to all join together. But the slaves could tell from Celaena's face that this wasn't an attempt to escape. This was a suicide mission. And Celaena smiled down at the guard that she had just stabbed in the stomach, and she swung her axe again to his face. And then she moved on to the next. She ends up killing a bunch of other guards, and it's insane how many she actually takes down, especially with the injuries she already has from them trying to keep her weak. She makes it out of the mill and continues her rampage, trying to get as far as she can before she either escapes or they actually kill her. And at the end, she was surrounded by 40 guards, fighting until she was eventually knocked out, 1 inch away from that wall.
That is such a harrowing tale. I can't imagine getting that close, one, to escape, which she potentially could have, and two, to death, which I think she was not expecting to make it out of that situation alive.
We definitely talk about that more too. She is like one of those people who's like, I'm not necessarily hoping I die, but I'm not going to be upset if that's the outcome. And that's kind of how she was here. She's like, I'm trying to escape, but also if they kill me, cool. That's fantastic, because I also don't want to live. I don't consider her like suicidal or anything like that, but I do feel like she's in a really broken place where she's like, I just don't want to be here anymore. And if I die in the process of trying to get out of here, then that is what it is.
I also think it's really hard for us to understand probably the gravity of that situation, which I think Sarah J. Maas did a really good job describing Celaena's mental state during that situation, where we really can't imagine being in a situation where we know that people are trying to keep us alive to inflict the most torture possible, and also that there's essentially no way out. And the championship games were a crazy, unexpected turn of events for her. But for that entire year of torture and solitude and destitution, she was not expecting to ever have a way out. I don't think that we can understand how much of probably a dark hole she felt like she was in.
Yeah, and that goes back to the point of being like, she's gone through so much. I really don't know how she is able to keep going through some of these things, but she does keep going. So after the forest, Celaena returns home and Chaol is waiting for her. Chaol actually ran into Nehemia after she found the letter that Celaena left, and she told him what today was for Celaena. So when Celaena gets back and sees him, she's like, stop trying to comfort me. I don't need anything. Like, I don't need any consolances or whatever. But Chaol's like, I don't care. You really should have company at the very least. And the tea about this is, in his POV, he was like, I know she doesn't want to talk about today, but I know other ways I can make her feel better. Ew.
First of all, that's disgusting. Second of all, Nehemia did tell him that this was the day of her parents' death. So, like, he knew, but also he was like, I still got to get it in.
Yeah, he's like, I might not be able to make her feel better with my words, but I can make her feel better with something else, if you know what I mean.
He's like, but have you seen my body? Adi yadi.
Seriously. Tea. So, but yeah, so that was the tea on that. I thought that was really funny because Chaol, we know, is just kind of like Chaol, and he doesn't really show a lot of emotion, so it's funny hearing his inner thoughts. But let's go ahead and flip to Dorian now. We know that Dorian has powers, but we don't know how, because magic shouldn't be possible here with his dad's ban. So Dorian goes back through some old lineage books where we learn that Fae blood hasn't been in the Havilard bloodline since Elena and Gavin, and Elena was only half Fae. We also learned that the reason that Adarlan began its conquest was because it was struck with famine and plagues, and before that, Dorian and his families were friends with the Galathinius family. Knew them well enough that he wondered if Aelin were here today, would it be as an ally or as his wife?
That's actually tea, but also I feel like there were so many other ways that the King of Adarlan could have gone about mending this famine / not causing such chaos in the kingdom. Like, I don't know why he had to be so fucking dramatic about everything.
Yeah, no, especially with Galathinius family.
You got it.
We know that we'll talk about this later on too, but basically they're like a super powerful family in Terrasen. And so it's weird that if they were friends with them, they didn't just ask for a little bit of help or like ask for other neighboring kingdoms for a little bit of help. Like, why are you going to destroy everybody else? I don't know. It just it seems kind of stupid if you ask me, but I guess that's why I'm not the king.
It's giving Cersei.
Ooh, tea. It is giving Cersei.
For no goddamn reason.
For no reason. So Dorian remembers the Galathinius family as being a just kind of kingdom. He remembers how everyone knew they were the most powerful kingdom, but they never wanted to push their borders, which tells me that Dorian is starting to see that his dad is a little piece of shit. So, after Dorian hits a dead end in the lineage books, he decides to go to someone who may know a thing or two about magic, Baba Yellowlegs. And in this scene, we learn a few things. We learn that long ago, demons, called Valgs, they had captured Faes. They had captured Faes and used them to breed new creatures. So the ones who were more Fae dominant were known as the Crocran witches, and the ones who favored the demons were known as Iron Teeth witches. And Baba tells Dorian that new magic may not work here, but old powers do. And I'm still confused. So what the heck does that even mean? Because he's never had magic. So for me, that sounds like he's got new magic.
I feel like you might just have to keep reading. I don't know.
You're the worst. You're here to help give me insight, and you're really not helping me one bit. I'm going to be honest with you.
I'm just saying this is a very evasive topic, especially if you've never read the book. I feel that you should continue to be confused as the rest of us are.
Peekers, then that means we're all in the same boat because I have no idea what this means. So if that's the case, then he asks, how would it be possible for someone to just develop powers? And she reminds him that magic seems to have only vanished here and not across all of Irla. So to find out why someone got magic, they'd need to figure out why it left to begin with. And I was going to ask you again, what the heck does that even mean? But I already know you're not going to give me any answers. So we're going to keep on going.
No, I will say that there are other parts of the world where fae and other magical creatures and things like that still do have their powers. This only vanished on this continent. It didn't vanish in other parts of their world. So I think Baba Yellowlegs could be onto something.
Yeah, I mean, it does give some good questions to think about, like, why did it just vanish here and not everywhere? But yeah, we'll get into that later, I suppose. But switching back to our main character, Celaena has been planning Chaol's birthday dinner for a few weeks now. Ever since Rena Goldsmith concert, R.I.P., she and Chaol have only gotten closer. Again, a lot of sexual tension to the point where, like, everyone in the castle knows that they're basically into each other.
No, I feel like everybody kind of knows they're into each other. Everybody, I could just see this being like a very like Regal Bridgerton vibe where they're like, did you see what so-and-so is wearing? Did you see the eyes that so-and-so is giving? That's Celaena and Chaol. They are very much, they're giving each other eyes. They're always together. I doubt it's gone unnoticed, especially by our friend Dorian.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Yeah, Dorian's been kind of like eyeballing this on the side. But so she has been planning Chaol's birthday dinner for a few weeks since the Rena Goldsmith concert, and they end up going away from the castle, of course, and she gets him to this building that's like an apothecary. She takes him up to this balcony. The roof is covered with plants and warm lights. It's very romantic, and she made a recreation of the garden the Fae woman was in Rena Goldsmith's song. And Chaol is in awe. He hasn't had someone show they cared for him like this since the day he left his family 10 years ago, which I think is just so cute and precious.
Chaol in the book is like, no one has ever given me anything so special. And Dorian gave him an Asterion horse, which we talked about in the last episode, which that is like an extravagant gift. That's a priceless gift. But Celaena gave him something that wasn't measurable in riches. She gave him something that was her time and her effort and her affection for him. And I think that he hasn't had that, especially like talks about from his family, like kind of he isolated himself from his family. Like, he hasn't had someone show that much like thoughtfulness for him in such a long time.
Exactly. They do continue on with their little dinner. They have a super cute and romantic dinner, and Celaena, being the queen of timing, decides she's going to send it. She tells Chaol the truth that she hasn't been doing the king's killings, which is huge because she knows how loyal he is, and she knows the position she's now putting him in by telling him that she's not doing what the king is asking her to do.
I go back and forth about this scene because Chaol talks so much like in his inner monologue about this part of the book, how much he hates that she's an assassin, how much he hates that she has to kill people, how much he hates that she's a servant toward the king. Yet he's a servant toward the king. And now when she's telling him that she's not actually fulfilling her duties as the king's champion and not doing things that he has been eliciting this horrible response to this entire time, that he's kind of against it now. I feel like I don't know how she could have won in this situation. I don't know how she could have pleased him. If she said she was killing people, he doesn't like that she's killing people. If she said that she wasn't killing people, now she's disobeying the king. Like, I don't know what could have made her win in this situation.
And what we were talking about in the beginning of this episode about like characters and where they would align, Chaol is 100% a true good person, or whatever that category would be. He's 100%. There is right and wrong, like you said, black and white. I know what's right, I know what's wrong, and you should only follow what's right. And that's kind of the vibes he's giving me in this scene as well.
Boo. I'm sorry, I'm just kidding.
You said boo. No, I'm still team Chaol right now. I still love Chaol at this moment, and I'm hoping that they become a beautiful couple. So
I don't hate Chaol. I don't hate Chaol.
I don't hate him.
However, I think that the way that he's reacting in this book and in these scenes is just annoying. Like, you know her job.
It is, because
you know who
know.
she is.
Yeah.
It's not even just Dorian just falling for her along the way and then her ending things with him. It is Chaol, who really doesn't have any opposition to being with her. He works for the king. She works for the king. He doesn't like what she does for the king and openly opposes that. And then when she says that she's not doing what the king has been asking her, he also openly opposes that. It's just annoying. I'm like, she's an assassin. You've known this the whole time. You've been assisting her on missions, even with Archer and things like that. And yet you have this nerve and this like kind of audacity to be contradicting what she's telling you and like being appalled at what she's telling you either way. It feels like she can't win either way.
Yeah. And listen, Peekers, we know that Mackenzie's not Team Chaol, but I am right now. So we're going to continue on with the beautiful night. And Celaena does tell him more about what she's been going through and what she's been doing on the side. So she tells him what Archer's been doing and how she's been trying to look into the secret group that he's told her about and how she's trying to get leverage on them so she can get out of the contract with the king and leave. And then in typical mother hen fashion, Chaol freaks out, but then he registers her last words, leave. He stops and he says to her, I would be the greatest fool to let you leave. And then he tells her he'd run away with her. My mind is blown personally because that is just very, I didn't see that coming from Chaol because we just talked about how he's so black and white. So for me, that was a big bomb drop.
I think it is. I just think I'm a little bit of a hater of his. Nobody has to agree or disagree. I just feel like I think that he would say he would run away with her, but he openly opposes everything she's doing on each side. I don't think she can win. I'm not trying to be so much of a hater. I think it's an extremely romantic gesture. I do. And when I can put myself back in the position of reading this book for the first time, I was so into it. I think reading the book for the second time, not even because I know what's happening, I think that his opposition to either side of what she does is just really frustrating. I think if he
that's a good word.
Let go of these right, wrong, moral, white, black, like ideologies that he has, I think that they really, truly could be happy together.
Well, guys, just keep listening and you'll find out. But obviously, after that moment, they kiss, and Celaena describes it as completely obliterating her, making her feel like she's been born again. And I just gotta say, that was a very epic way to describe a kiss. Because the last time she felt like this with someone, it was with Sam. So instead of waiting like she did and regretted with Sam, Celaena and Chaol go all the way. And she describes it as finding an entire half of herself. And all I have to say to that is, you go, girl.
Snaps to that. Snaps to that.
Finally, somebody got laid.
Yeah, but T is, if you're reading the book, we really didn't get the scene. And we get to like the gentle touching of the décolleté, and then it's like end scene, and then it goes back to the flashback with them in bed, sheets covered. Hate that. We want the whole scene, Sarah Janet Mass.
I'm guessing though, because this is such a long series, that we are going to get a scene like that or two. Am I right?
You might get a spicy scene.
All right, so I'm excited for that, guys.
Okay, but also, this is T. Oh, we're going to read it word for word. We're going to be like, and he was thrust. I'm just kidding. I'll read it word for word. I'll be like, and then he entered.
He entered.
No, but seriously. Sarah Janet Maas. We have to remember Sarah Janet. I hope you're listening to this one day. Sarah Janet was 16 when she wrote the first book. So I don't know how long of a gap it was, but I don't think it could have been more than a year or two. So let's say Max, she's 18 writing this book. Okay. Let's say she's 18. She's barely experienced her first loves, her first experiences, all these things. So for her to write this in a really beautiful way, but also keep it kind of PG plus, parents
young adult
included, but not required type thing. I think she did a great job. However, we will say that Sarah Janet does grow into an adult, and there are some spicy scenes to come.
That was your sexy noise?
Yeah, that's what I do every time before. My ex is kind of tested that.
Before he enters?
Before he enters? The first thrust.
Guys, we are so unhinged tonight. I don't know.
A plot peek after work is a different vibe, honestly.
No, seriously, I'm kind of about it. I feel like this is the perfect way to take the edge off of the long day. All right. So, the next morning, Celaena is scouting these people from the rebel group, and she notices that they're all boarding a ship to leave. And then Archer pops up, and he's like, in a quivering voice, I had to tell them I couldn't live with their blood on my hands. So, she fucked up Celaena's plan to get out of the contract. She's like, you better find me new names to give the king, or else I won't fake your death, and I will kill you for real.
I think that is exactly how she said it, actually. That tone of voice, that ambiance, that hand motion you just did, check out our YouTube. Yeah.
Okay, so later on that day, Nehemia comes by to get the tea on Celaena and Chaol's birthday night. After they talk about what went down that night, Nehemia drops the bomb that the king is threatening to kill more rebels in Elway if she doesn't return to tell them all to back off. Nehemia is like, I can go save my people, but I need you to promise me that you will overthrow the king and help my father reclaim his throne. So again, another person is telling Celaena she needs to take down the king with no direction or reason why. The same king who's overnight has killed her whole family and kingdom. The same king who's threatening Nehemia and her family and Chaol's life if Celaena goes against him. So Celaena's like, absolutely no. And in her right, she absolutely is adamant that she cannot do anything to help. She is just one girl. They get into a little friend fight, and Nehemia ends up leaving saying, I didn't know you were nothing more than a coward. And then Celaena says, when all of your people are lying around you dead, don't come crying back to me. But in Celaena's defense, I feel like I would be very afraid, because even if she was Fae, even if she did have some type of magical power, she has no powers here. And still, how would she be able to take over the king all by herself?
Yeah, that's so hard, because I do think Nehemia is coming from a place of she's ruling a kingdom, or not ruling, but potentially going to rule one day. She's in a position of power, and she knows that her people are being massacred. And I feel like her biggest response is, we need to take a stand. But also, I don't even know how much we talked about it in the podcast, but the king basically threatened Nehemia. He threatened Chaol. And basically he was like, and then once they're dead, I'll kill all of Nehemia's brothers and her family, and I'll overthrow her kingdom if you don't follow my will. And Celaena's in a terrible position. Nehemia is in a terrible position. And though there's been lots of suspicion about Nehemia's motives, I feel like her biggest motive is clear. She wants her people to be liberated. And Celaena wants to be free. And she doesn't want all of this responsibility.
Absolutely. And then so moving on to that night, Celaena and Chaol are just being so cute after having to keep their relationship on the DL in front of everyone. They're spending the night together, so when he got up for some fresh air, he did so quietly to let her sleep. And when Celaena woke up, he was gone, and she figured it was because he had work things to do. But when she got back to her room, she finds a ransom note for him. And then she's not so chill. All Celaena can think about is how the same thing happened to Sam might be happening again. So she sprints to this meeting spot in this blind rage. And when she gets there, it's not the Celaena that Chaol has grown to know. He describes her as the monster he was expecting to find in the mines of Endovier, but on his behalf. She's taking down everyone, left and right, while Chaol is watching all of this from behind his little prison bars. Celaena's in this crazy rage and almost gets shot down by an arrow when Archer shows up and takes the arrow to his shoulder. And while I want to ooh and ah over Archer showing up for that, he actually drops a huge plot twist. He and Nehemiah have been working together for the last 6 months to organize this very group to rise and fight with Terrasen and overthrow the king.
That is so crazy. He is very much portrayed as like this pretty boy with pretty boy motives. Mm-hmm. And also he's very much portraying himself as knowing nothing about what's going on. And to find out that Nehemiah has been kind of not lying, but hiding her true intentions to truly overthrow the king, to set up these rebel groups, all these things. And that Archer is also planning it on it. So the king was actually on his trail, and he's portraying himself to be this poor innocent boy and using Celaena's affection for him to kind of sway her toward his direction. Yeah. I was shook.
I literally did not see that coming. I was like, he's literally like a courtesan. He's not got anything to do with anything. Like, he's just doing his job, like, and getting involved with other people who are dealing with this kind of stuff. So yeah, I was like, whoa. And yeah, seeing that he and Nehemiah were working together, I did not see that coming. I'm like, how did they even come in contact with each other, first of all? So yeah, that was
also crazy. The way him and Nehemiah are described, so different. I couldn't see them working together. I wouldn't have pictured them working together.
And then, so Archer ends up telling her more. He's like, we actually kidnapped Chaol because there's a hit out on Nehemiah, and Chaol knew about it, and we wanted you to realize that he's not to be trusted. So not only is she hearing that Nehemiah and Archer have been lying to her, like he said, Chaol has too. And Archer says they kidnapped Chaol today because there was supposed to be a meeting with the king, his council, and Nehemiah all today. And today was also when it was rumored to have the hit happened. And they thought by kidnapping Chaol, the captain of the guard, that it would stop this meeting, but it hasn't. And their spies said that the meeting is still planning to go on right now. Chaol is let free during all of this, and he confirms that there was supposed to be a meeting tonight. So Celaena is like, fuck you all. I have to go save my friend. And she's booking it back to the castle unhumanly fast. And she makes it to the castle, bursts through the doors, flies past Dorian, runs all the way up to Nehemiah's room, this whole time just thinking about their last words to each other. And then when she opens up the door, she finds her dead. Completely slaughtered, drenched in her own blood, in her own bed.
That is incredibly heartbreaking for Celaena to have that happen, especially after the horror that she witnessed with Sam, and then finding out that her only friend in this world has been slaughtered, and also that the one person she was supposed to be able to trust knew that there was a threat out on her life and didn't tell her. Her rage, I feel her rage, honestly.
Yeah, I can't even imagine that kind of pain that Celaena is going through during this time, because she just ran for her life to go save Chaol, save his life, because she and him finally profound their love for each other. And then to find out that Chaol lied to her, Nehemiah lied to her, Archer lied to her. Now Nehemiah is dead because all of them, essentially. I would be so fucking heartbroken if that were me. Like, and then to run in to save her and then like see her completely mutilated and dead in her own bed. And the guards were also dead too. So they were all in there. So whoever killed her killed everybody somehow. And I am just like so broke. Like, how did that happen?
It's literally unspeakable. The fact that her best friend in the entire world is now gone. And she also finds out that not only was she fighting for her country, she was working undercover for it. She was making plans for it. And then to find out that she was likely murdered for it, and that her person, her first lover, her first kind of, not boyfriend, but her first true partner knew that there was an opportunity for her to die, and that he didn't tell her about it, warn her about it, anything. Oh God, it's so tragic.
Yeah. And while we're on that topic, I do feel bad for Chaol, because he knew, I think the king knew the situation he was putting Chaol in, because the king knew that Chaol was close to Celaena. So if Celaena were to have found out that there was this hit, it would be very obvious because she would be protecting Nehemia. And then that would show to the king that Chaol was not to be trusted anymore because he was siding with Celaena. So I do feel for him on that side, and I sympathize with that. But also at the same time, I'm like, there was a hit out on her. You knew that there was a hit out on her, and you didn't want to warn and keep, like, maybe tell Celaena to be on the DL or something. Like, I don't know. I feel really bad for all of them in this situation right now.
I do feel for Chaol too, because I think that, like we said earlier in this episode, he is such a black and white person. He's such a right and wrong person. And he really does find pride in serving the country that he's serving and doing his job properly. I think he doesn't see how corrupt the king is, even though all the evidence is right in front of his face. I think he's a black and white moral person and also an idiot.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. But
aren't they all? Really? Sorry to our male peakers.
There's
only really one that we know of, so sorry.
No offense, but they should feel fine because we also call ourselves idiots.
We actually said in an earlier episode that we're pretty disrespectful to ourselves, so nobody should really feel bad. We're coming for everyone.
Yeah, no one's safe here. And before we end this story time, there is one more piece of tea I need to share with our non-readers. And the tea is, before Nehemia died, there was a brief scene with her in Elena's tomb having a secret meeting with Elena herself. And Elena was asking how close Celaena and Dorian were from breaking, and that Nehemia needed to do whatever it took to break Celaena, even if it pushes her too far. What the fuck does that all even mean, Mackenzie? Because are they the good guys? Are they the bad guys? Because I feel like if they were the good guys, they should have just told Celaena what's been going on this whole time. And it just seems a little muddy for me right now, if I'm being honest.
I remember reading this scene for the first time in the book, and I think my only reaction was, what the actual fuck? Like, we literally knew that Nehemia was hiding things. We knew that she was keeping things close to the chest. But I also feel like it's a little shady of Nehemia for Celaena to have kind of bared this whole story about Elena and all the things that were going on and the tomb. And turns out Nehemia either knew about this all along or is having her own secret meetings with her. That also puts into like question Elena's motives. What are Elena's motives for Celaena?
Exactly. Yeah, that's what threw me for a wrench, because I was like, whoa. What's going on here? Because I thought that they were both on Celaena's side, but now it seems like they're conspiring against Celaena for their own purpose. And I don't know why they aren't informing Celaena if she's going to benefit their purpose, and she's clearly not on the king's side. I don't like the miscommunication trope is all I've got to say.
Not one bit.
I just don't like it.
It's almost giving like a whodunit kind of thing. It's almost like a murder mystery, but nobody's really being murdered, and also nobody did anything. But it's like, what the fuck is going on? Do we know Nehemia did anything?
Well, she was murdered.
She was murdered. You're right. You got me there.
Brutally murdered from the sounds of it.
So next episode is whodunit Nehemia.
Actually.
So...
All right, Peekers, so that is the end of this week's plot. Next week, come back as we take a peek at Sarah J. Maas's Crown of Midnights, chapters 30 through 44.
And be sure to follow us on TikToks and Instagram at plot.peak. And if you want to send us any of your bookish battles, that can go to plotpeakgirlies at gmail.com. Basically, we're asking for any stories that you think are worthy of a book, any stories that you're like, I can't believe that fucking happened to me, or any stories that your friend has told you or whatever that you want to share with us for a chance to be featured on one of our episodes and get a shout out on our social media, baby. So send us in your bookish battles, and thanks for listening.
Bye.
Bye. Woohoo.
Slay. That was so fun.